Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. NJ here. So today we are looking at something a little bit different, and that is this pair of glasses here. These are the XREAL Ones. Now these are an AR set of glasses and they give you a fantastic cinema-like experience, putting a huge great OLED display in your field of view with excellent sound in fact that's tuned by Bose, and I was very impressed with what I've experienced with these so far. Now this isn't a reaction video because I tend to find those are a fairly fruitless thing to do. The main reason is any new tech that you get, you're going to be wowed and excited, and you know, that's one thing, but it takes time. For me, I've probably had these for about 10 days, and it's important to live with these things for a little bit because you can't really comment on long-term comfort, you can't comment on eye strain, on perceived sharpness or brightness or anything really until you've used these things for a while. So that's why we're talking about these now. You know, I'm never usually the first person to jump on a review. I want to spend time so that I can give a nice informed decision and informed information to my wonderful subscribers. So why did I decide to go with AR glasses? Well, I've been in the VR side of things really since the beginning, and I've got DK1 and DK2 set. I mean, literally the beginning of kind of mainstream products like the Meta Quest. This all started back with when they were Oculus, when they didn't really have any investment, when they were just putting out these development kits. You know, I had those, and maybe at some point in the channel we'll look back at those just to see how far we've come. But yeah, I've been in the VR space a long time. Now, the main difference between the AR and the VR side of things is, well, there's two things. One, at the minute, certainly VR headsets are still pretty big devices, and whenever I travel a lot with work, whenever I see someone with a full-on VR rig on their head, I can't do that, man. I just can't be that person, especially when the stewardess is just reaching across or steward trying to prod this person. Excuse me, can I, you know, you're so removed from the world, and you know, power to you if you're that person, but I find that all a little bit difficult. This, however, the form factor of these is now getting so good. I mean, yeah, they're slightly thicker than a regular set of Ray-Bans, but do you know what? I think it would take a second glance. If you've got these on, they do look, they're getting closer and closer to just looking like standard sunglasses. But in particular, these ones got my attention. I've been sort of watching in the background with AR stuff. There's two things I wanted. I wanted the larger field of view because a lot of the early ones have quite a small field of view, and in VR we're used to, you know, 100, 110, maybe more degrees of field of view, which is a lot. You know, you get to see a lot in your not just what you're looking at in the middle, but the periphery. And AR, less so, because you're looking through these smaller lenses. It's a different thing. And the more field of view, more better, as far as I was concerned. And these are about 50, which you may think, well, that doesn't sound a lot. Well, not compared to VR, but it's kind of it's an AR glasses. You're meant to be able to also see a little bit of the outside world, which you can through these. You can see everything else, and then you have this big display put in front of you, and in some cases relevant to what else is in your periphery, that can look like an absolutely enormous OLED TV. It really is quite something to behold. But these are, let me just, if you want the too long didn't read about this, these are excellent. I'm definitely keeping them, and I really like them. But there are things that I think we need to talk about in terms of what they're trying to cater for when it comes to software adjustments for problems that we have. And this is really a discussion of ergonomics and anthropometrics, right? Your relationship with this technology, your face is different to mine. The distance, the IPD, the distance between the center of your eyes is different to mine. The size of your nose and the comfort of these, that's different to mine. And the more you start to reduce these things down in size, and the more compromises have to be made. And I really, I salute XREAL for being brave enough to kind of find that sweet spot where things are looking smaller and slimmer, but still striking a compromise between solving problems for everyone's different face shape and what have you. I suppose a good one to kind of illustrate that would be when it comes to IPD. let me show you with another set of goggles here. So this isn't a VR headset or an AR headset. This is an FPV headset, and anyone who's been a long time subscriber to my channel know I cover an awful lot of FPV. But these are a set of DJI goggles. Now, if you look here, the way they solve the difference in IPD between different people, whether your eyes are further out or closer together, is they mechanically solve that by pushing these in and out, right? So you can set them exactly, and that's per eye. You know, if this eye happens to be a millimeter further out away from that eye compared to the center of your nose, we're all different, right? You're all beautiful, it doesn't matter, but this kind of thing solves that. But then, you know, adding physical sliding mechanics, you can't do that with this without adding a massive amount of weight and bulk. Like, as I said, the compromise has to be struck. So what XREAL are trying to do, I mean, yeah, just look at the size difference here, right? It's pretty big. What XREAL have to do is try and fix as much as they can in software. Now, the problem with that is you have a limitation with a lot of these software solutions, and that limitation is based on the FOV that you have to work with. Now, it's going to be easier for me to explain this to you on the bench. I've got a couple of illustrations just to show you what I'm talking about. And then I will show you down the lens. It's a little tricky to get the camera to really see what I'm seeing. It won't be the same experience as what it's like. You'll have to kind of take my word for that. But I will give you a little showing down the camera to give you a rough idea of what's going on here, especially in terms of the stabilization. The stabilization on this is fantastic. And that's largely because of the X1 coprocessor that they fit onto the unit itself. Now, previous iterations of the XREAL glasses, you needed I think it was the Beam Pro, which was a separate device to kind of deal with the spatial positioning computing stuff, so that you could have your image sat there in space and you can move around and stuff stays where it is, or, you know, the latency between you moving your head and the image moving, and all of that is now mitigated by the fact that you have the processor straight on here, and also having that coprocessor right on top of the actual unit means that you have a really low latency, like 3 milliseconds. It's imperceivable. Like, there's when you move your head, in terms of those little jitters, and it's holding that image rock stable for you, it's just instantaneous. I mean, this kind of stuff is just really, I'm not going to use the word game changing. I hate that word. I hate that phrase so much. It's integral to the progression of this kind of device. Let's go with that. Okay, let's have a look down at the table and we'll talk about this some more. So just quickly, in terms of what you get, kind of everything's here really. You get the glasses themselves. One thing you do get, which I think are in the box somewhere, is some different different adjustment of nose support here, in different size, small, medium and large, which I think the pad themselves are actually the same size. It's just their position changes. I think they get taller or shorter. I'm using the smalls, and those seem to work really well for me. So yeah, that gives you a little idea of what we have here. We also have, you can see the ports here, the mesh grills for the speakers, because this has Bose tuned audio, and I have to say it's really rather good. In terms of, I mean, in a noisy environment, you probably want to go to earbuds, but certainly in, you know, if you're in your house or somewhere reasonably quiet, they're actually very rich and you get quite a full sound. Even in the low end, I was quite impressed. So the sound is a real plus for me, I think, on this new model of XREAL. You then have a couple of different buttons. You've got kind of an up and down, which is used for, you know, adjusting screen size or moving up and down the inbuilt menu. You have your kind of main function button, which you double click to bring up the settings menu. And then you have on the top here a shortcut button, and that shortcut button that you can see there, that is there so that you can customize what you want that to do. A long press, well, in its standard state anyway, a long press when you hold down one of the up and down buttons will actually adjust the dimming of these outer displays, the electrochromatic dimming, which is really cool. And then the short press will change the brightness level of the screen, and they are, like I said, they're really bright. No complaints on the brightness, and certainly at night when you're in a dark environment, if you're lying in bed and using these, you actually want to dim these down a fair bit. You really do notice just how punchy they are. So yeah, that gives you an idea of what the buttons do. You've got a cable in here, and this is a really nice braided cable. Normally when cables are braided, I worry that they're too stiff, but this is really flexible. And also the right, I mean, any USB-C will go in there, but this this end is designed to kind of flow off the corner there when you plug these in, like so. And it doesn't get in the way. The length, I'd say, is about right. I certainly didn't feel like it was too short. I wouldn't be upset if they made it another 30 centimeters longer. But yeah, the cable's absolutely fine. It does come with this removable, which I guess they'll probably at some point give you options. This removable plastic section that clips onto the front if you want the whole thing to be that kind of shiny color. I hate that kind of stuff because it's just a massive fingerprint magnet. I think if you can see there, just put your thumb on it and immediately there you go, thumbprint. That kind of thing I don't like, so I kind of prefer that matte look myself. So nice you've got the option for that there as well. The case, I've got to say, I think this is a step down from their previous case. Yes, it's strong, and it will do the job for sure. For a company that have done so well with the engineering of the glasses themselves, I'm a little disappointed that when you open these up, it won't even stand upright. It will tip back. They needed to reduce the angle of that opening to about there, and then it would. And when you're trying to put these away, you've got to prop it up against something to be able to keep it flat. I also don't like the fact that, you know, you've got them in there, fine. But where would you put the cable? Like, I don't really want to put the cable under there. I don't want it scratching these very expensive lenses. So you kind of have to wrap it, maybe put like a microfiber in there. And I don't know, the whole thing really, I don't think these are great. And what I in fact did, and this was thanks to a user on Reddit, was this particular person found this case on Amazon, and again I'm going to link this in the description, but it's more or less exactly the same size as these, slightly lighter, plenty strong, nice tough outer shell, and actually slightly more low profile. If I can get that, you can see it's slightly lower profile than these. So I really like these, and the main reason I really like these is you've got a mesh compartment there. You can put your cable in here like so, and that isn't going anywhere. That's just perfect. And then what I do is I put a microfiber cloth in there like that. I put my glasses down, I fold that over, and then close it up, and you've got then, it's got two nice high quality zips. The zip's also sealed, so you know, splashes of water and stuff, I don't have to worry about that, whereas these, you know, there is a gap there. So I just think the whole thing feels lighter as well. We've got a little lanyard thing, and this is very inexpensive. That's actually not for glasses. This was for a razor kit, a trimmer, like a beard trimmer. So I'll put a link to that. I think that's a far better case, and a much better design. And like I said, when I open it, everything's just exactly what I want. It's all out the way, and the glasses are there, nice and protected. I will also put a link. These are my favourite. You know, you can tell I'm such a nerd. I get excited over really good microfiber cloths. This has kind of a suede feel on one side, nice stitched edges, and then you've got the really fine microfiber for polishing on the other side. So again, very inexpensive, but a really good microfiber cloth for just anything that you like to keep clean and polished, but especially good for these. So that's those out of the way. Now let's just quickly talk about this whole IPD thing. Now, as I said before, see, I've already managed to get a fingerprint on these lenses. I definitely wouldn't want a cable under there that could potentially scratch them. One thing I did notice as well, it does look like these are polarized, which they have a polarized filter over the top, which makes sense because anything below you, any light coming in, will show up on your display. So it's kind of good that they decided to do that. So where I was going with this IPD thing, let's just talk about this for a second. So you can see when this is powered on, you'll be able to look from this angle, you'll be able to actually see those micro OLEDs back there, and they're meant to be 1080p. So we have like a 1080p display, we have one there and we have one there, and the problem that we have here, if you imagine these are your two displays, is that when you're trying to solve IPD in software, not mechanically, because again we can't physically move these in or out dependent on your eyes, what you have to do is get these screens and actually kind of move them slightly in or slightly out. Let's say this area is your projected image inside of these 1080p displays. What you essentially want to do with an IPD adjustment is to move these slightly out or slightly in to try and line up with each eye. That's your kind of ideal. And some VR headsets will do this that don't have the mechanism in there to physically move the entire cluster of lens and screen per eye like this to match your IPD. The software solution would be to move these around to try and line up with the center of your eye. The problem you've got though is that, let's say your IPD happens to line up perfectly with the center of these displays, then these two displays will be right in the center and everything's great. If, however, your eyes were closer together, as the arrows show here, you'd have to move these displays in slightly to feel like they're perfectly lined up with your eyes, or certainly a little bit more inward. The problem then comes down to the fact that what if you want to make this screen a bigger screen in your field of view? You're already positioning this screen center off to this side. So this is going to limit how large you can make this display within your given field of view. And the reason for that is, as we make this larger, like I said, it's going to start clipping off the edge of the screen. And it's exactly the same if your IPD is your eyes are further apart and you move these screens out, it's going to start clipping off the edge. So you are entirely limited by the field of view you have within this display area. And that's the problem. Now, what XREAL do is their way of solving the IPD issue is they keep the image centered, but they make the whole image smaller or larger, right? And by making, and in both directions, if you're in the center, it will be its largest display of whatever it is that you're looking at. If your eyes are further out, what they'll do is just make that both of those images slightly smaller and say, well, now you should be able to see everything clearly given the position around the optics, by taking them away from the edge of the optics towards the edge of the FOV where things might be likely to be blurred. If your eye's sitting here and not dead in the center, you're going to more prominently notice blurring towards this inside edge. So what they do is they get the whole screen and they just make it a bit smaller in hope that the image will be moved more inwards and then away from the edge where it might blur. I know that's a bit of a long explanation, but the actual way they're solving that IPD problem, and that goes for both directions, just make the image smaller, is not really solving an IPD problem. It's saying, look, we're FOV limited, this is what we're going to do, and call it IPD adjustment. Really, it's not. What they're saying is make your image smaller, make your screen that's out in the world in front of you smaller, and then we'll call that IPD adjustment. It's not really IPD adjustment, so I'm just making you aware of that. But to my brain, that's not the way to actually solve IPD, but it is a limitation of the field of view you have available. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is when it comes to distance, making things further away from you or closer towards you. And again, it is to do with how your eyes will, we've got two eyes and we perceive something closer towards us, again, by the angle at which we're looking at things and the size of it. And then, of course, your eyes move further away and the smaller object give you the perception of something being further away. We have 3D depth perception. Now, again, XREAL, in VR, it's very obvious when things are positioned further away or closer towards you, whether a screen is right in front of your face or whether a small screen in front of your face or a large screen a very long way away, because you've got, like I said, 110 degrees field of view. You've got so much room to work with. You can, again, move these screens together to give you that perception of distance. You've got that same problem again as you did with IPD, where you're limited by the field of view. And for my eyes, and I've tested this an awful lot looking and trying to judge it, the screen here, 100 inches close to you, say, fills up this much field of view, or 200-inch screen but further away from you, which fills up the same amount of field of view, they look identical to my eyes. They don't look like they're actually further away. And I think it's kind of related to that IPD thing of where you can't move the screens like this to give you depth perception, because you start taking away from the screen's ability to get bigger or smaller as it reaches the edges of the field of view. So if there is a distance thing happening, it's so subtle that I can't tell. The only way I can really feel like there's a screen feels small or large, regardless of the settings of 10 meters away or 2 meters away, 4 meters away, I think is the minimum. The only way that feels different to me is when you're looking straight through it, and you have the outside world around you. If I'm sat here facing my monitors, these screens look like they're, less than a meter away from my face. If I turn and face this way and I look out towards the balcony area of my studio, which is say 4 or 5 meters away, suddenly these look like huge projections. They really work relative to what else is in the room with you. And if you blacken out these outer displays to kind of take away any kind of relative distance thing within your field of view outside of what you're seeing image wise, projected image, I cannot see a difference between 4 meters at 100 inch and 10 meters at 200, or whatever that metric is to make these two screens at different distances fill up the same amount of field of view. It always feels about, I would say about 3 meters to 4 meters away, no matter what I do with the settings. And really the only time the screens feel absolutely enormous is just relative to what else you can see in your field of view. So again, I think that's all a limitation of the field of view. Now, when the pros come out, we're then talking about a 57 degree field of view. Things are getting larger still. That might change. You've got more room to work with. But in either way, it's still a huge amount of field of view. You still see a wonderful, big, beautiful, clear OLED projection in there. So I'm just pointing out what I think are limitations and part of what I think the problems are in terms of software solutions. But software is software. It can change. Things can be made better. So here we're looking through, and this is my Steam Deck screen here. I've got my Steam Deck down here and plugged in. You can kind of see there. But this gives you an idea of what you're looking at. It's very hard for me to hold all these things at once. But it really is a beautiful image you get looking straight through. I know the camera's going to struggle horribly to focus. But yeah, it's the kind of thing you get. But like in front of here, in front of my monitors, you can see that it feels about monitor sized. Whereas if I spin over out towards the balcony outside, suddenly this starts to look like an absolutely massive projection. So this is what I mean about what's relative to the outside. What I can show you here whilst we're looking at this is the electrochromatic dimming. So let me just show you that. So let me try and get focused on the image again. So if I hold this down, you can see that it dimmed. So that has not taken all the light out, but suddenly you've got a lot less light in the way, and you're getting more contrast with the screen that you have in your field of view. There we go, that's the full. It's quite hard to do because my hands are completely full here. And yeah, that makes a big difference, you can see, compared to what's outside. Come on, focus. There we go. But it's a super crisp image. Those OLED displays just look wonderful. Maybe if I back out a little bit here, you can get a better idea of what that dimming looks like. Let's clear it out again. There you go. And then we'll go to the middle setting, which is there, so you can still see the keyboard through it. And then one more time, there's the completely, or 90% blacked out. So it's very clever tech. I must say, it's there's a lot to love about these and what they're doing. Okay, so this was a fairly in-depth video. We've talked about a lot with these, but I hope that's given you some good information on these glasses and whether it's something you consider taking a shot at and trying them for yourselves. I think you'll know pretty much whether you're the kind of tech nerd like me, whether you'll get regular use out of this. I travel a lot with work, as I've mentioned. This will be great. But even when I've kind of sat with these on my head and my wife's next to me, she has no idea, almost no idea. She can hear these a little bit, but to me they're loud and they're clear and they're rich. So I can literally watch my own thing while she's watching her thing on the telly, and it doesn't bother her. I think that's pretty awesome. I'd really like the not picture in picture view, but kind of that, putting a smaller screen off to either the left or the right, so you can just look straight through them and do whatever it is you need to do. It could be walking the dog, it could be, you know, cooking, whatever. And having your cook along video just up in the corner there. There's lots of use cases. The ultra wide thing I think is really cool for productivity, although I'd like to see in software eventually, I'd like to see the ability to move that further away, so you can see more of that ultra wide, rather than just have the whole thing kind of fill your view and you have to turn around to see all areas of the screen. So there's things that, like I said, there's software things, they can be improved. But I think my kind of one thing to XREAL is you have some great hardware here. Already the pros are coming out in a couple of months, and these have only just, you know, barely released, and they've been pretty full on in R&D and developing and getting these things to market very quickly. I would like to see more regular software updates catering for the things that your user base is saying to you we need. And, you know, you just have to jump on the XREAL Reddit to see people are constantly talking about this stuff. I think that would be super useful for them to just put more of their resources into software development and to spend a little less time just rushing out a new product, because that's the kind of thing that will build your user base, build trust in your user base, and make them feel like, if I'm going to spend 500, you know, or more if you're buying accessories, dollars or pounds on these things, that your investment's got some longevity, and not just to say this is the most amazing thing ever, you'll love it, and then 3 months later say there's a new thing coming along and it's even more wonderful. You need to keep that support in there. So I would say my message to XREAL would be slow down with the hardware releases and really pile some resources into software. But they're an excellent set of AR glasses. I don't feel self-conscious at all putting these on if I'm traveling, and more than happy to pass them around. If you know someone that's got a set of these, try them. If you can try them, try them. Unfortunately, I don't know, certainly here in the UK, of any stores that are stocking these where you could go in and try a set. I mean, the company aren't big enough, I think, to where that's going to be in your PC world here in the UK, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, I think Amazon's the best bet, just because you have that robust 30-day money back thing, so you can try it. If it doesn't work for you, you can send it back and maybe wait for the pros with the larger FOV. I don't know, that's a whole other thing. But either way, I hope that was informative. I hope that was useful. If you've got your own opinions on these, if you have them especially, please sound off in the comments. It'd be really good to chat about it. And certainly if any of the information I've put in there is misconstrued and I've got something wrong or whatever, just let's talk about it. But as I said, bought my own money, I like them, I'm keeping them. Links to everything that I've talked about is will be in the description. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.